author life comes down to the small elements. Think about it in terms of our books. When we are writing our novels, we have to add in tiny visual and auditory cues as our readers are going through our stories to make that world building complete and whole, and they'll really make it feel like we have crafted something special. Inside of our books, the details really matter, but it also matters in our life. As authors, it's so easy to feel imposter syndrome and to question why we're here. Can we do this? And are we as authentic as the next author? It's really easy to compare ourselves. And so those small details matter to our well-being. They matter to how we're creating what we're doing. And it also matters in our marketing. It matters how we are putting certain details online and in our newsletters and the conversations we're having. The details matter. Small little things will help to elevate it. If you are outside and you're taking photos of the beautiful fall leaves, you're going to get really nice photos of you in the fall leaves. But if those leaves are falling, the added details completely change the game. If you can capture it while in motion, those little details, it makes a world of difference between, I stood for a photo and I was part of something artistic. I was part of this image. I was part of this moment. And that goes for everything we're doing. The photos we're taking, the videos we're creating, the information we're putting out, the conversations we're having, the way that we're designing our writing space, the way that we are crafting our websites, the little details matter because anybody can do anything on a basic level. You can do anything on a basic level, but you're not going to resonate with it as much without those details. And your readers will not resonate with it as much if they don't have those details. So for you as an author, think about what you can do to elevate your space and your writing time. What can you do to feel like more of an author? What little details? Could it be lighting those flameless candles that I constantly talk about in my videos because I like them so much? Is it the mood lighting that I'm always talking about? Does it make you feel like more of a writer if you have certain screens up? Those little things are going to make a huge difference in what you're doing and how you're doing it, and getting you into the writing mode and making you feel like you belong there. What is it detail-wise that is meaningful to you? I want you to sit down and identify some of your favorite authors, like those people that you look at and think, they made it. That is what I want. That is what I want to get to. That's who I want to be. That is my standard. Those are the things that I use to identify, that person has been successful. Yes, that person has done these cool things. Yes, this person feels like a real author. And then how can you implement those things into what you're doing? So if you look at me and you see the fancy dresses and the beautiful artwork and the way that I create the landscape around me for when I'm writing, and you think, oh, well, she's made it because she does X, Y, and Z. How can you then implement those things into what you're doing? If you love my bookish art and all of those high-end things and it makes me feel like a real author to you, go get the skirts, take some pretty pictures, do some pretty book pictures. If you look at somebody who does a bunch of interviews, how can you get more interviews? If that is the thing that says, ooh, that's a real author. They don't even have to be big, national TV interviews. They can be on a podcast. It could be on an Instagram page. It doesn't have to be a big deal, but how can you facilitate more of those in your author life? If you are looking at people's social medias and you say, oh man, she is a real author. She's always doing these things and she's got these different opportunities. And these are the pieces of content that make me feel like this is a legit author as opposed to somebody just trying to get there. How can you start implementing those things into your social medias? Because if that speaks to you, it's probably also going to speak to a bunch of fans as well. If you look at someone's social media and it's just this gorgeous amalgamation of all of these different types of content, how can you start leveraging that to make yourself feel like more of an author, to implement those things that speak to you? Now, here's the key. What speaks to you is not going to speak to me, is not going to speak to the next person. So you're doing this for yourself, because when you find those little moments to elevate what you're doing, you're going to be more likely to do that for yourself if it's meaningful to you. Just because I sit here and say, well, the peak of being a professional author is beautiful photo shoots and magazine quality style imagery and tons of content, all of these things, doesn't mean that's what resonates with you. Just because I have beautiful photos of me everywhere that makes me feel like more of a professional doesn't mean that when you go to my pages and you see those things, that says girl's an author. That might say girl's a photographer to you. What is it that speaks to you? What is it that makes you feel better? What is it that you identify that says that's it? That's the vibe. That's the it factor. Think about those things and then start elementing or leveling. Oh, I don't even know what I'm saying. Start putting those elements into what you're doing so that you can level up. The more that you're able to identify what speaks to you and then implement it into your strategy, the more excited you are to create that novel, to create that video, to create that photo, to get ready to write for the day, to do your other work so that you can get to your writing. The more that you can identify what works for you and is meaningful to you and then can implement that, the better you're going to do for yourself. So start thinking, what is it that draws you into this space? When you look at other authors or other book talkers or other people in different industries, what is it that says that person is a professional and that person is the standard? That is the bar to be met. Then start paying attention to what they're doing and how they're doing it, and then find small ways that you can implement those things. It doesn't have to be big. If you love my photo shoots, I hope you do because I love them. If you love them, but you don't have the skills to do that yet, you don't have to do the same level of photo shoots I do. You don't have to have the big dresses and the big hair and the books and all the things. Start small. Have yourself a little photo shoot. It doesn't even have to go online, but have yourself a little photo shoot to train yourself to get better. If you really love a specific type of video people are putting out on TikTok, do it. But if it sucks, don't put it out. Keep trying until you're happy with it. The act of doing these things or implementing these things doesn't have to be a public part of this. Just because I talk a lot about how you can do the outward facing things doesn't mean it's just outward facing. It can be completely internal, completely for you, just for fun, just to feel like what you need to feel like to get into that space. Maybe you see authors who are just excited and free and they feel like they can talk about anything at any time and they do the live streams and they do all this stuff. And maybe what they do beforehand is kind of like get into the space by playing music and dancing. And so for you, maybe what you need to do is find how you can get into that headspace. If you feel like people are going on their live streams and they're just excited to talk and they're engaging and they're looking at the camera, they're talking to people and they're doing the fun voices and they're having the conversations and it's engaging to you. Maybe if you are not in that space, maybe if you cannot sit there and smile for an hour, maybe if you can't do those things, maybe you need to turn on the music and hype yourself up right before you go on so you're in the right headspace. If you're having a day that's not so great, which I have, and I have to go on a live stream and it's just not the vibe that day, I have to do something to get into a headspace where I can then be on for being on camera. And that could mean singing, that could mean dancing, that could mean doing like some kind of physical movement or exercise to help me get into the right space. So finding these elements and then working with what works for you to get to a place where you also feel like, yeah, I've made it. Yes, I'm doing these things. These are steps I'm taking to get to the path that I want to be on. That's really going to be meaningful. The small details, the leaves falling as opposed to just taking the photos, is what can change your perception of you and your author life from I'm just struggling and it's not working and nothing's going anywhere. I don't feel like a real author. I'm an imposter. To no, I'm getting there. I'm on the right path. I'm on the right track. I'm putting in the effort. I'm getting there. It can change your mindset from being desperate and sad and upset and angry to being grateful and being excited and being passionate, even if you're not in the exact place that you want to be. Details matter. Period. In our books, in our writing, in the way that we write, in our writing atmosphere, in our marketing, in our public presentation, in our life, just in the things that vibe around us. If you need to go to Home Goods and buy a new journal because that's what it is, details. Find your details, figure them out, and then implement them. Drop your questions. We'll see you in tomorrow's episode.